Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to the second part of our Rights Respecting Schools conference today. To those who weren't able to join us from the beginning, it's great that you're with us now, and we're really looking forward to this final section where we're going to hear from some colleagues around the UK. Just before I move to introductions, just a couple of thoughts, things that have come through the Q&A entries and comments thus far this morning. Several people have remarked about secondary school settings or schools that support children with additional learning needs, and neither of those have had much of a mention thus far. We're about to rectify that situation because two of the colleagues on the panel this morning are from such settings, so I hope that will sort of address some of the questions that many of you were asking. And we will keep the Q&A live. Colleagues will continue to look at your questions and comments, and where possible, Jerry may well jump in and ask questions that you are asking of our panelists rather than the questions that I've got for them. So we'll try to keep the conversation flowing. Certainly from the previous years, the panel of practitioners has been really popular as part of the conference, so we're looking forward to a great conversation with the colleagues who are kindly agreeing to join us this morning. So without any further ado from me, I'm going to go round the group of people with us and invite them to introduce themselves rather than me speaking on their behalf. But as part of their introduction, I'd like each of you please to reflect a little bit on what we heard first thing this morning, the idea of a theory of change and the fact that RRSA has impact for children and young people. So as well as telling us a little bit about your school, your setting, if you could share with us one example of a real impact for the young people that you work with as a result of being a rights respecting school. So we're going to head west first and go to Janette, who's based in West Wales. So over to you, Janette, if you wouldn't mind responding to that question. Welcome.
Well, good morning. So obviously I'm at Reynolds. I'm an assistant head teacher at Milford Haven Secondary School. Just a moment in regards to one of our best opportunities that we've had. By delivering the Rights Respecting School programme, we've had a significant change in our school culture and the students' well-being by embedding the articles into our school life. Children have gained a deeper understanding of their rights, but also their responsibilities as rights holders and how they can really make a difference. And we've really focused on children and young people valuing education, but being actively involved in their decision making on a day-to-day basis. And we've really, from a strategic leader's point of view, pupils have been really involved in developing and reviewing our school policies together. They regularly meet with the senior leadership team, our school governors, to discuss the school systems, raise awareness about the rights and issues that are currently happening in our school. And in recent years, obviously, pupils have successfully campaigned on different issues, from being a plastic-free school to ensuring well-being support for pupils, discussing the issues around anti-vaping, and it's really been delivered through our school Senedd. And within our school Senedd, that's quite a big committee. We have subgroups, and the senior leaders of our school actually ensure that each subgroup is met on a termly basis, that the pupils bring the areas of difficulty to the table, what they're worried about. We listen actively, and then we obviously make sure what they need is well supported and that is delivered on. For example, one of our young group of pupils were concerned around the use of sort of racist language that was being used in the school. They decided to run an assembly around and campaign. It stops with you. They also decided to create a way of reporting those incidents so the safeguarding team could actually see what was going on. And through that campaign, we saw a reduced number of incidents. We saw a reduced number of searches of inappropriate language on our smooth wall. So listening to the children, getting them actively involved has made a huge difference. And what we do successfully run here is a pupil conference once a year, where we have probably 125 pupils in the main hall. And there are different themes which the school senate have brought up, such as, do we like the current uniform? What do we want to change? Does everybody understand the rights and values of the child, the ethos? And through that, there is no members of staff apart from the head teacher in that hall, and our year 11 prefects actually run the conference themselves. So it's all pupil led. We then obviously share their feedback, the prefect team, with our school governors and senior leadership, and then we actually provide them with an action plan. What are we going to do as leaders, and how are we going to support them in making a difference to our school culture, the well-being and the ethos of our school? So that's been really successful.
Fabulous.
Thank you.
Thank you, Janet, very much indeed. And I'm sure people will later on want to hear a bit more about that conferencing idea, but the impact of RRSA on the voice and the empowerment of young people came through so strongly there. Thank you very, very much indeed for now. I'm going to test my geography. I think we'll head northeast from West Wales towards Greater Manchester and the city of Manchester and hear from Rukhsana. Welcome.
Hello, thank you very much, Martin. So my name is Rukhsana Ahmed. I am head teacher at Longsight Community Primary, which is in central Manchester. It's a small primary school, but what I also lead are a local family hub and 2 further children's centres and a daycare. So it's a busy time for me, but we focus on 0 to 19 here. So it's a real a pleasure to be working in Manchester. So for me, this is this started a few years ago when we started our journey on the RRSA award. And we wanted to make sure that our class charters at the beginning were really embedded, understood. So we started the very first week, where the children would get together with the new teacher. Obviously, they're moving up, and they would develop their class charters as per what we were sharing and hoping that they would do. But then it evolved to 1 day to 2 days to a well-being week. Now, one may say, my word, you didn't start learning until week 2 of the school academic year. What are you doing? And it is the best investment any school will ever make in their school calendar, because as well as doing the class charters, which was where it was all created, we were able to do 1-page profiles where the children were able to share with their new teacher who we are, what matters to us, how are you going to help us as a child to reach our potential. It also ensured that we were able to do assessments on well-being. We did a lot of circle time, etc. And we finished the week on a Wellfest. Now, Wellfest is our 5 ways to well-being, and we would have picnics, we would help other children, we would go into other classes. It's about giving, it's about making ourselves aware, etc. And the impact of that, and it's a single impact, and I'm sorry, mine's a bit of a shorter one, but I think it's the impact is we have no conflict in our school. And it sounds as though what you're talking about, 0 conflict. It literally is that children completely respect each other, and and they understand, because they respect each other, children respect their teachers, and our teachers respect our children. And there is little or no conflict and little or no disengagement in classes. And that is all because of the investment that you make. It was like front loading, aren't you? The investment you make in that very first week. And I would love to share, I'd love for all schools to be able to take a little bit of that. And I know it's hard because the calendar year is so busy. But the what you get back from that 1 week has made such a difference to our school. So that's my impact. Thank you very much, Martin.
No, fabulous to hear that, and that emphasis on the word respect. It's the title of the award. It's what we say on the tin, the rights respecting school. But to really hear that emphasis on the importance of respect is hugely significant, I think, and a great reminder for us all. Thanks, Rukhsana. We've heard thus far from a secondary context and from Rukhsana's context, which is principally primary. In putting the panel together today, we wanted also to reflect on local authority perspectives and the leadership of RRSA in that context, and also through trusts. And that will be the sort of background of our next two panelists. So we're going to head north from Manchester up to the city of Glasgow and to Gary. Welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me. My name is Gary Condy. I'm Lead Officer of Children's Rights and Participation, also responsibility for Career Ready, which is a mentoring programme, and social enterprise, as well as first aid, which all links together to my job that I'm doing. My job is fantastic. I've been in the job for 3 years now, having led on developing young workforce and social enterprise before that, former primary teacher all those years ago. So all the skills that have come, all getting pulled together, what we're trying to do. My biggest kind of impact would be the 3-year plan. And the 3-year plan predominantly had participation as part of the main part we're looking for. And that was to get our young people involved in decision making, which fits in perfectly with rights respecting schools. It all came together with the fact we've got parliaments, we have school forums, we have Glasgow-based forums based in the banqueting hall in the city chambers, where we invite in every single school. These are monthly, and it's about listening to young people. Biggest impact of that is our young people are being listened to, and they feel they're being listened to. And looking at the impact, the theory of change presentation from this morning, all the kind of outcomes and all the impacts that we've got in the top row are things that we're seeing all the time. It's those things that we're delighted to see that as part of the theory of change is what we are seeing. And our young people are saying, when we ran a campaign, a kind of survey in March 2021, asking about what matters to me. And what the young people said was, don't sugarcoat it to us, tell us the truth, be listened to. So we used that to build a framework with the young people. We became a Children Right framework, which is the logo. It's at the bottom of all my emails now. And it's about agency, it's about belonging to, it's about relationships, about equity and equality, and about learning, the 4 main parts we talk about. And from that, our young people, from one of our gold rights respecting schools, took one of our adult documents called All Learners, All Achieving, and turned it into a manifesto. They took it away, they sat down with their teacher, they called it the Manifesto for a Fairer Future, and it told our director of education what they wanted to be doing in schools. We've now launched that to every single school, we've launched it to parliaments, we've launched it to the schools forums, and our director of education says it makes him feel uncomfortable, but in a good way, because he's hearing from young people. We also, thanks to that group of young people, we have a thing, because I sit in the council and I sit with EDIS, which is the big education department. We talk to councillors, and we said, why are we talking to councillors as adults? Why are young people not talking to councillors about what's happening in schools? So for the first time ever in May, we brought a group of young people in to talk about the Manifesto of the Fairer Future, and they delivered it to the councillors, and the councillors were blown away by how knowledgeable our young people were and how our young people knew so much about their rights. And the wonderful thing about that was our young people were actually buzzing, thinking, do you know what, somebody's actually listening to us. And that's the biggest impact I've got, is when I'm doing the rights respecting school visits, is young people saying, we make a change because people are listening to us. And I think that's the biggest impact we've got. Yes, I could go on and on about the impacts of every single school that's happening, but for me, people voice and the participation is a huge impact for us.
Fabulous, Gary. Thanks so much for that. And I think a recurring theme beginning to emerge here, and rightly so. For those of us in the RRSA team, as the programme has grown over the years, it's been fabulous to see a deeper and stronger engagement with local authorities. And right across the piece now, there are more and more councils and boroughs and local authorities coming on board, taking a whole area approach to becoming rights respecting. So it's great to hear of that impact across the city of Glasgow. Thanks, Gary. And we'll head southeast. This is my last bit of geography, thankfully. Southeast from Glasgow to the northeast of England and to Rebecca. Looking forward to hearing from you, Rebecca. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin. Yes, here in the sunny northeast this morning. So it's been a fascinating morning. I've taken so many notes, so I've really enjoyed it so far. So thank you very much. In terms of who am I? So I'm Rebecca Whelan. I'm the Deputy CEO for Horizons Specialist Academy Trust. We have 7 special schools currently based in the Tees Valley and North Yorkshire area, and those special schools cater for young people from primary age, secondary. We have a post-16 provision. We also have a pupil referral unit, which is for young people that have been excluded, from mainstream school, and we also have 2 co-located provisions, which means that the young people are on the roll of one of our special schools, but they're actually based in mainstream settings and are part of those mainstream schools as well. But all of those provisions do follow the Rights Respecting Schools framework and ethos, but they didn't all start at that stage. We originally introduced it to our schools in 2015 when I was one of the head teachers, and we came about the award through our school improvement partner at the time, who came thoroughly recommending it, said you need to try this. They were also the head teacher of a special school, so we went to look at their school and we could see instantly the impact it was having in terms of pupil voice, empowerment, confidence, self-esteem, all those things that we've heard about this morning. So those original schools introduced it, followed the programme and worked their way through to gold status and have remained gold, and we're really, really proud of that. As other schools have joined the trust, we've introduced the award to them, and it is one of the key performance indicators that is set by the trustees. We really value the award, and we encourage all our schools to participate. And very much like one of the speakers mentioned this morning, whatever official grading a school has, whether you're good, requires improvement. We know in education there's always more you can do. We always try to do things better. And when we've had schools that have had a difficult few years and then they've joined us as a trust, we found the Rights Respecting School framework as a great basis for looking at relationships with staff and students and encouraging communication friendly approaches. So just from my notes this morning, I can see how everything links. You know, there was a question, I think, in the chat around attachment awareness and trauma-informed practice, and that very much links into the work we do through Rights Respecting Schools and valuing pupil voice and how we capture that. So much, but yes, so I'm here to represent the special schools, but very much I think things that I've heard that happen in mainstream are vital and pivotal in this special sector as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. That's wonderful. And I think the message coming through loud and clear really from all of you is this sense that Rights Respecting as a programme works everywhere, in every context, in every setting. And that's really important for people to hear about. I'd like to take you all, if I may, for a moment back to Kulvan's presentation and reflections and challenges, I think, on leadership and how we see leadership. And I just wonder, from your perspective, how does a commitment to children's rights support and challenge your leadership or the leadership of colleagues or people you see around you? So how does rights bring a challenge to leadership? We'll just change the order around a little bit. Let's go back to Gary initially, if that's okay. Gary, thanks.
Okay, from my point of view, I think young people challenging the adults is perfect for children's rights. That's what we're trying to do. I would like, we've got a thing in Scotland called Curriculum for Excellence, which is all about responsible citizens and all these different things we talked about for years. I want confident individuals. I want young people to be saying, this is what we should be doing, or can we do this? Now, we say to young people, we do caveat it and say, like, every school we're doing health and wellbeing, we can't all have a swimming pool, but there's lots of things we can do. And I think that's what our fantastic staffs in school are now doing. Not saying they're now doing, they've always been doing, but I think they're now looking at young people and actually saying there's actually really good ideas out there. And I think that's something that we've taken forward. We've went from 36 schools in 2021 to 158 schools now doing rights respecting schools. So you've got that as a kind of thing for people to look at and say, look at the fantastic work we are doing. People might ask me why there's 20 schools not doing it. 20 schools are still doing children's rights. They're just not doing Rights Respecting Schools awards. So I think teachers have been doing children's rights for years. It's not something brand new. And I think that's one of the things we look at when staff do challenge and ask things like, is this something new? We use the RRSA myths and misconceptions for our PowerPoints and presentations to say, this is not something new. What I do have to get over to schools when I'm doing presentations is the word staff. They keep saying, do you want to talk to teachers? And it's like, no, I want to talk to staff. I want to talk to everybody. So we've done presentations to support for learning workers, homeschool workers, janitors, dinner ladies, parents even, as well as our teachers, because rights respecting schools and children's rights is for everybody to do. So I think that's one of the most important things we do. So when we offer CLPL, we offer it to everybody. Yes, I might do specific ones because management might ask me for specific ones, so I'll do specific ones for that one. But I think it's using the way to do it best is people who are on this call today and people who I know are listening in, my colleagues in Glasgow. I use my schools to do it, because it's all very well hearing from me being a theory person and doing all the stuff that I'm doing. But if we can go and visit schools who are silver or gold and talk to them and actually see what they're doing and see how, and the ones that we did out in the East End of Glasgow, when they brought other members of staff in, it wasn't just the person who leads in rights respecting schools, it was other members of staff, classroom teachers who came in and said, this is what it's like in a primary 3 class, this is what it's like in my primary 5 class. And then people go away from it thinking, do you know what, this is not a major challenge. It's something we're already doing, and I think that's something we've got to emphasise in all my presentations and all my work with schools, is saying, start with what you've got. Don't reinvent the wheel, because lots of things, rights respecting school, if you're doing the award, lots of things are there. And what comes out of it are children are happy to say they're safe, children are happy to say that adults are very approachable. That's what I want to come out of this. One of our schools, in one of the presentations I did, the young people said to me, the best part of this school is the staff, which I thought was a wonderful statement to make, because they felt as if the staff were very approachable. When we asked the question about being safe in school, they say, yeah, I can approach anybody in this school. I know we might talk about one important adult, but they say, I can approach anybody in this one. They even said, I can go and knock the head teacher's door, which I think is brilliant. And you're talking about challenges and all the different things we look at. Somebody asked a question about attendance earlier on. One of our schools, who became recently a silver school, has just about doubled their young people in the school, because it's now seen as the centre of the community, which is a major thing for them to be. For a school that was very low attendance, a secondary school, very low attendance, now a silver school, all the fantastic work they've done in anti-racism and all the work they've done, they're now seen as part of the community. Parents now feel they're welcomed in the school, and that's what you want to do. So taking that and being able to show that award and say, this is what you're doing, is a fantastic thing for people to do. But I think the main message is for the schools is, a lot of schools, we're doing this already. The rights respecting school is a lovely way to pull it together.
Thanks, Gary. And I loved what you said about every adult in the school being involved. It's not just the teachers. And I think that echoes with something Calvin was saying about the leadership being distributed. It's everyone as a leader. And I suppose we would frame it around the concept of duty bearer, every adult being a duty bearer for the rights of every child. So that brings in everyone, that holistic approach. Thank you. Let's head to Janette next, please. Your thoughts on sort of the challenges of rights for leaders.
So within our sort of school, our emphasis is really placed on providing an environment where pupils know that their actions can make a difference and their views matter and they feel valued, and develop that sense of shared belonging and community. And I think initially it was really difficult to ensure that all stakeholders that were involved in the process really understood what a rights respecting school was, from our pupils, our support team, our family, but also our community, really sending those messages, what we want to develop, how we're going to make a difference, and recognise that we're all leaders in our own community. Sorry, school bell. So I think that was our main challenge, was really developing a community sense of process. But we did lots of campaigning. We actually encouraged parents to get involved in our campaigns to really bring our community into the school to make a real difference, and really focus on that culture, the ethos and well-being as well, which is really important to everyone within our community. So thank you.
Thank you. No, thanks for that. And there's a really key point in that, isn't there, about the role of leaders in setting that culture and tone and ethos, and the rights give us a way in which to do that and to make that happen. Thanks, Janette. Rukhsana, your thoughts on this, please.
Thanks, Martin. I think there's two aspects for me. One is how I, as a leader and the leadership team, relate to children. And I think once you relate to children in a particular way, i.e. you are a true listener and you act upon what they say, others tend to follow. And I think it really is about constantly being that role model as a leader and saying that, yeah, I absolutely will listen to children. I absolutely will take on board what their views and values are, And when you do that, other people around you, so part of it is a little bit more soft touch, so you can see how it plays out in the course of the year. The other aspect of it is I also lead the Changemaker, which is our school council, the Changemakers. And again, it is about how you connect with children as a leader, and by doing that, you can instantly make change. And that's why I would always say that RRSA, the award itself, and whether you're going for it, has to start at leadership level. It has to be something that it is in your school development plan. It is in everything that you do and everything that you say. So our change makers absolutely challenge me. Don't give me a word in edgeways most of the time about making change. We've made change to outdoor provision. We've made changes to the basic, the school dinners. We've made changes to uniform. But most importantly, what I've done, and this is probably the first year I've done it, is their voice is clearly in my school improvement plan. It is there for everyone to see. That's where it came from. It came from them, and it's absolutely key that is it, and that everybody notices that, because as I said, you do it, and the rest of your team and your colleagues will follow, and that's really how we've done it at our school, and it's been. I like to think it's worked really well. Thank you.
Thank you, Rukhsana. That sounds amazing, and just that it's really interesting to hear a head teacher speak about being part of the school council or the Changemaker group. So often that's delegated to another colleague to look after the pupil voice, but it's a powerful statement, isn't it, to say the head teacher is going to sit down at those meetings and I'm going to be the one who's listening to you. It doesn't get filtered by anybody else. So really interesting perspective. Thank you so much for that. And let's go to Rebecca now on this question of leadership.
Thank you. I think in terms of challenges, I think I echo what other colleagues have referenced there. It shouldn't just be an add-on, it should be part of the school ethos, and the reasons why you're following the retrospective school framework and endorsing that as part of your practice should be made clear, not only to staff, students, but the wider community, and get those parents and carers involved and things. And you can do that in various ways, and it's trying to maximise the things that you already do. So through your newsletters, through your social media feeds, through certain events that you have with parents and carers or other members of your local community. And I think it's just making it part of that ongoing work that you're doing. And I think our rights respecting school leads play such a significant part in that. We've got some fantastic leads across the trust. And one of the reasons why I signed up for the conference this morning was because we're looking to see how we can share that best practice, because I think that's another challenge in itself. We have some, great work going on in different schools, but sometimes that can be in isolation in a bit. So it's about how we can then support one another to keep that momentum going. So certainly that's something that I'm hoping to look at, so that colleagues can support one another and also pinch ideas, share ideas. And I think, not just being an add-on, but then also it not just being about the school, it is about the local community. It is about supporting our young people to be the best citizens they can be, so that benefits the wider local area moving forward. So one of the examples we have that from two of our provisions, so our sixth form provision, that's for young people with learning difficulties, and then a secondary provision for young people with social, emotional, mental health difficulties or neurodiverse conditions. Both of them have established a thrift shop recently. They established that in the summer, and it's had such a significant impact, not only on the young people in a sense of their social, personal development, their literacy, numeracy skills around selling and merchandising and things like that, but also opening the doors of those provisions and getting the community in and thinking about what is fair. Why can some people afford certain things but not others? How can we make that possible for everybody? So it's just so much that goes on, from the thought of, we've set up a thrift shop, and the wider impacts that can have around equity and fairness and inclusion for everybody. So but yeah, certainly it can't just be an add-on, but maximise things that you already do and make sure it's not just about your school in isolation. It's about that wider community or network of schools if you can.
Thanks, Rebecca, very much indeed. And some real tangible examples have come through in response to that question, not least where you spoke there about equity and all the actions that a school can take to really put that equity and inclusion and fairness into practice and model it to the whole community. Thank you. After this next question, we'll bring Jerry in to see if there are questions from the Q&A from colleagues who are with us this morning. I'd like us, though, for a moment or two to sort of think almost at the next step from the question we've just explored. We've talked about leadership and modelling and involving the whole community. From what you see as leaders, do children's rights change the practice of colleagues? Obviously, we're not going to name names, but you have the privileged position of seeing people in action in their roles. And would you say that children's rights is changing professional practice? Shall we go to Rukhsana first on this one, please?
Thanks, Martin. Absolutely, and I think it's a case of for us, it's about consistency across the school in terms of how it is that we relate to children. We do a lot of putting ourselves into other people's shoes. If you remember, I think it was said about empathy being a key aspect of what we want our children to be when they leave us, empathetic people. And I think that's something that both staff and children have to be part of. So therefore, that is what we embody, and that's what we expect from our teachers. The other part of it is how we talk to and talk with children. As I said before, if leaders across schools talk with their children in an empathetic way, in a listening way, you'll find that teachers will do the same. But more importantly, it's about how we speak to teachers as well, and other staff members. We have to model that. We have to model the same way that we would speak to our children is the same way we should speak to our staff members, with that level of empathy, kindness, patience. I will always say, and children know that, the number one aptitude that I want our children to have is kindness, and that is what I embody in my staff, is about, or it's all about kindness. And I think if we consider all of those aspects to be equally important, staff do move along with you. Sometimes it takes others a little bit longer, but it is all about how you bring people along the journey. It isn't a done to, it is a done with experience. Thank you.
Thank you, Rukhsana. And Gary, your thoughts on that around the impact of rights on how colleagues are?
I think it goes back to the point I made at the start about, and Kelvin said the same thing. It fits in with everything we're already doing. So we're talking about STEM, we're talking about social enterprise, we're talking about sustainability. All the work that is going on in schools already, I think it helps teachers take it forward because young people are driving it forward with them. So, for example, sustainability, a huge one in Scotland. You've got schools there who go and visit Free Willy and whatever you want to call them in Florida, and come back and say this isn't fair, miss. And now it becomes, after 10 years later, a school of sustainability. And it's all about the young people who have driven that forward. But it needs that teacher, it needs that group of teachers to support that going forward. And I think, as my colleagues have said, staff are on board with this. They are on board with it. Yes, there might be the odd challenging one every so often, but the teachers I meet so far, it seems to be, or the staff that I meet so far, they get it and they are supporting the young people. And the last example of a school I had the other day was a school who didn't like the way their library looked, and with support for learning worker, they said, why is there not books about us? Why is there not books about our colour of skin? So they've now changed that, and that was a support for learning worker. It wasn't a teacher who took it forward, it was support for learning worker who took that forward with the young people. And then they started doing a program called Heart Start, which is a life-saving program that I do. And if you buy mannequins, they come as being white or a coloured set. You don't get a mixed set. And the kids were challenging this, saying, why do they all come as one or the other? I know it's probably good marketing, probably you have to buy 2 different sets. But they were asking, why can't we get a mixed set? Because these mannequins don't look like us. So young people are doing that. So you've got staff doing fantastic work. You've got that support from doing it. You've got young people out there who in one of our schools, and probably more one of our schools, but the example that came up was they set up an LGBT group, and it wasn't the teachers that set it up. The young people set it up, and the teachers now join them rather than the other way around. So I think our young people are leading by example, and our teachers, our fantastic teachers, are supporting them going forward. But I think that's the big thing that we talk about is getting a group of teachers, and especially when we're doing Right Respecting Schools, it's not a one-person job. Everybody's got to do it. Everybody's got to be on board. But what I love about it is, and probably not good for schools, but lots of people who do it with me are now getting promotion because they're now using that and saying, look at this area of responsibility I've taken on. And it's just fantastic for them. So I'm now seeing them in different schools, but it's wonderful to see that they are seeing this wonderful work is being beneficial to the young people, beneficial to themselves, and hopefully beneficial to other schools when they move to it. So that's one of the big things that I'm looking forward to as we go through the years.
Thank you so much, Gary. That point about people leading RRSA and then having success with promotion, we haven't got hard evidence of that, but anecdotally we hear it all the time. It's a huge leadership development piece for those fortunate enough to be in that position in schools. Thank you. Let's go across to Rebecca.
Thank you. Yeah, I think the Right Respecting School approach has really helped us to value pupil voice and, you know, champion pupil voice as well, and think of the different ways that we can capture pupil voice, especially working with a range of young people with different special needs and often communication difficulties. We've had to be very creative over the years in how we capture their views and their opinions. And I think when we first started Right Respecting School way back in 2015, the resources very much felt more mainstream, but as even Right Respecting Schools developed with the work of UNICEF, you know, you've got your pictorial resources now, and it's much more pupil friendly. And I think that's really helped us to have a shared language amongst students and staff. You know, you've got that common approach, whereas before I think students probably felt like whatever staff were doing, it was about, oh, the staff want us to do this, whereas actually for now it's pupils who are saying, we really want to do this, we've got a right for this, or we are capable of this. And I think it's empowered not only staff through professional development, but also it's, you know, empowered students. And even when we've thought about how are we going to introduce this to some of our more complex learners. So we've looked at certain articles that we know that they could participate in. So things around play and their choices and how we can get their views on that. And that's developed into making sure that our playgrounds are more accessible. So even as special schools, we thought we were inclusive, but there's always more work to do. And it's through the young people and their voice and their opinions that we've been able to become even more inclusive. And I'm sure there's still more things we can do, but the work of Right Respecting School means that you don't stand still either. You're always developing, you're always improving, and I think that's, you know, something that we've really benefited from. And you've just got to tailor things to suit the different cohorts of young people, but I certainly think the resources that are now made available lends itself to that immensely.
Super, thanks Rebecca for that. And that point about sort of never standing still as a rights respecting school, we say that and we hear it from gold schools all the time, that it's only when you reach gold that you feel really empowered to do even more with rights, and that just takes schools from strength to strength, which is great to be reminded of. Thank you. Thanks for your patience, Janette. Over to you.
Thank you. So for us, obviously, knowledge of children's rights has significantly strengthened our practice of colleagues in our school. We are now sort of promoting more inclusive, supportive, and it's really empowering our teaching and learning as well, alongside our leadership at all levels. Again, the enhanced empathy and understanding and those relationships has significantly improved. So when teachers have those strong relationships and understanding of children's rights, they're more attuned to the needs of the children, and therefore we're seeing an increase in engagement and their well-being during the lessons. You know, colleagues have really embraced this sort of participatory model that we've developed, and they've often seen and noticed improved behaviour, which we've already mentioned, and student motivation, which has been absolutely phenomenal at our school. And again, colleagues with the understanding, because we've done quite a bit of training about them understanding the rights, being better equipped to support students holistically, recognising their emotional needs and physical needs earlier, and which is actually improving their academic success. And we've introduced loads of initiatives through mindfulness, time for talk days, regular check-ins with pupils in their planners. They've got an online check-in system, loads of mental health support. We've got pupil one-page profiles, staff one-page profiles displayed around the school, and having that holistic approach has really made a significant impact, and it really has started from our bronze journey and developing that the rights respecting school.
Fabulous, thank you. I must say that's the first time I've heard reference to staff having the opportunity to do a one-page profile, but why not? It's about the word relationship keeps coming up, doesn't it? And understanding one another. Lovely idea. Yeah. People are going to be scribbling down all sorts of things from what the four of you have shared already. This is of huge value to people. I know that. Thank you so much. Jerry, are there questions coming through in the chat that you could perhaps share with our panelists?
Yes, thank you, Martin. We have had quite a few questions, so I'm going to try and bring them together into a few themes. I think, Rukhsana, this is specifically for you. There was lots of comments about your Wellbeing Week, Wellfest. Are you able to share sort of some sample timetables or activity suggestions? And what activities do you do during that week? Another comment was around, do you still do English and maths as part of that week?
Okay, so we do, as we say, we do, I don't know if anyone's ever heard of the Lumen Scale, which is an assessment for well-being. So that takes place, and that means that we can do immediate well-being support very early on. We do a circle time, well, we all create the one-page profile, and similar, I have my one-page profile on my door, and one of my profile says, what helps me? And that says, tell me enough, but not too much, and feel free to disturb. Oh, sure. I'll let you get on with your work, but sometimes I will interfere. So, you know, and that's some of the things that I write on my own one-page profile. So that's really important. The other things that we do is in terms of the class charter, we also do another activity as well. But the class charter, it starts off really by the articles, and that's where it all is created from, and it's very personalized. And the class charter is definitely focused on not the articles, but they don't form the rules. The rules are very bespoke to that class, and it's all about relationship building. That's almost half a day done on that piece of work. And we will do videos on how they got to that point. It isn't just the class charter. Often our class charter says, this is what we said, this is what the teacher said, this is what we said, etc. And in terms of, we do a lot of circle time around growth mindset. So it's all about what's achievable for children. Remember, it's not just we can't do it, we just can't do it yet. So that very much focus on potential. Now, Wellfest, which is our Friday, I do the launch assembly in the morning, and then the children go into each other's classes to offer help and support in whatever that might be. It might be reading, it might be sort of support for maths. We often go to help the newbies in reception. We have a picnic where there's an opportunity for brothers and sisters and people across year groups to come and mix and connect with each other. So those are some of the activities. Do we do English and maths? I'll tell you now, they are definitely ready for English and maths by the end of the week. So we probably do some assessments, early assessments in reading and writing. There's no harm in doing that, but we definitely don't do formal teaching till the week after. It's a big investment, folks. But I cannot tell you the give it gives. It's something that keeps on giving to us for the rest of the year.
Excellent. Thanks very much. I'm going to bring this theme together because quite a few questions came out around staff in school. So I'm going to try and bring this together. This is for everybody, so I don't know who wants to jump in. Staff not being on board. What if they don't have the same drive as the RRSA coordinator? What about staff who don't share the values of upholding children's rights and modelling kindness? And what happens with that odd challenging one every now and then if it becomes 4 challenging ones every now and then all at once? We would like some specific advice on what we can do more than just model it and they will come to you. It's a big question.
Rebecca or Janet, do you want to jump in first, if you would?
Yeah,
Thank you.
It is a tricky situation, isn't it? I think we've all been in those staff rooms where you know you introduce something and you see the person's face drop a little bit. But in terms of hints and tips, what I would suggest is looking at it as a staff group, looking at the different areas of the framework, but then giving that choice to say, right, we need people to look at this area, how can we develop that? Because I think sometimes if people have got an element of choice, then they're a little bit more proactive in making a choice. So they might say, oh, well, actually, I've not necessarily got an interest in that, but I definitely can do that area. And then you might get a little bit of buy-in. And then I think just celebrating those achievements. So when you've seen a staff member do something well, or a class group or a particular area of the school, just celebrating that and just keeping that momentum going and sharing those positives. And I think you eventually do get people on board. I'm not saying you get everybody on board all at the same time, but playing to people's strengths, giving them choice, going back to them, checking in with them, offering advice, support. And then also if people have the opportunity to see practice in other schools, I think that's always a great experience if you can go and visit. Sometimes things sound harder than they are, or you think it's going to be a lot more work, but then when you see that it ties in with other things that you're already doing, I think that always really helps, because you think, oh, well, actually we're doing that as part of, you know, the PSHE curriculum, or a focus that we've got for the reading for pleasure agenda. That's something we're doing. And if you can tie things in and people feel then it's not another add-on to their workload, it should contribute to that.
So obviously for us, what we do at the start of every academic year, we review the school's vision with all the staff to see whether we're still all in agreement. We have gradually faded in the rights to respect in school language, which ensures that that vision is clear for everybody. But really, when staff members do understand it's all about the children, it's all about the relationships and the well-being, and we have got the evidence now to show it does have impact on academic outcomes, actually improved engagement, but also most importantly is the children's behaviour in the classroom. We have had certain members of staff initially not fully engaged. They had opportunities to do lesson observations with other colleagues, which showed excellent practice, and they would always come away from that observation with something that was really important to them, which they could then implement in their own classrooms as well. Pupil voice again is really strong, and the children will now, obviously with GCSE subject areas, they will walk with their feet and not select that particular subject, and we can have that conversation. Why has your subject sort of declined in numbers? What's going on? And we can review it things that way as well.
Thanks to both of you. Jerry, there's perhaps time for one more question that's come in from the people joining us today. Okay,
thanks, Martin. Another sort of theme was around SEN, secondary SEN schools specifically. It would be great to get some ideas on how we can immerse it in our school. And another question is around some older pupils in SEN settings will ask, but what's the point? It will make no difference. So Rebecca, this is for you. How have you overcome these challenges within your settings?
Yeah, and it can be tricky, certainly for some of our young people to think, what is the point of this? But I think it's almost not explaining what the point is, but them to feel the point, for them to see the point of it. And you know, they do that through being exposed to certain elements and doing it for themselves. So they need to see the difference that they're making, and then, you know, for you to recognise the difference that they're making and reinforce that. And I think that helps. So sometimes, you know, less talk is key, isn't it? I think sometimes it's action and them to be doing things and living and breathing things, and then it's for them to then realise and say, wow, we did that. We've contributed to that, or we came up with that decision, or we've managed to make that change. And for them to then articulate it, it's about them. It's not about teachers standing at the front saying, we today are going to do this and you will feel this. It's about them doing something. But it can be tricky. And I think just, again, similar to the staff really, isn't it? It's thinking about what do children do well, what do the young people do well, what do they enjoy, and using that as a hook to engage them into the next thing. So some of the examples that, you know, I've mentioned the thrift shops that we've got, but that's really playing to the young people's strengths, because they love to welcome visitors into the school. They love to be, you know, demonstrating what they can do and communicate and talk, but they're doing so much more than that. And, you know, they're making money, and then what are they going to do with the money? Or they're going to use it to make a difference by either donating to a charity or developing another project. So it's all those things. So start small, but then build on that. So from one thing, turn it into something else, and then you won't even need to worry, because the children will do it, hopefully, for you. Yeah.
Thanks very much. We've got lots of other questions, but we're not able to get through them all, but we'll make sure we share them. We'll keep them all. So
thanks, Jerry, and thanks to everybody for posting those questions. It's just so great that our panelists sort of provoked and inspired people to ask lots. I want to just wrap this section up with one really brief question, or particularly brief answers as well, please, if you wouldn't mind. Just keep it almost to a sentence. Looking to the future. And there's been a lot of optimism and positivity, I think, across the morning. But as leaders in education, how do you see child rights going forward as part of education in the future? Just give us a vision in a sentence or two. It's really hard to do that, and I apologise, but let's just hear from each of you in turn. Gary, would you go first with sort of the wider perspective, maybe?
The wider perspective is that I think it will just continue to grow. I think that everything is there in place. The teachers are in for it. The young people know what they're doing. And I think looking towards it, one of the biggest feedbacks I give doing my assessments is to schools, they're not doing it to get an award. They're doing it because they're already doing it for the young people. And the award is a lovely thing to say to the parents and other colleagues, look at us, we're a gold school, we're a silver school, we're a bronze school, but they're not doing it for the award, they're doing it for the young people. And I think that's the main point to take forward. The fact is it's actually happening.
Thank you so much. Thank you for keeping it brief as well. That's really appreciated. And yes, it's not about the award. Ultimately, I don't think there will be a Rights Respecting Schools award, because together, all of us in UNICEF and in all the schools and communities we're working in, we want to change the system. And there doesn't need to be a badge or an award eventually. We're some way from that, but it's work in progress, thanks to everyone's huge efforts and inspiring work. Rukhsana, your thought on that future question, please.
Yeah, I'll keep it to one sentence. I genuinely believe it opens up a world of opportunity for children, and it allows children to see a future that once upon a time they possibly might not have. Wow,
thank you. Can we steal that and have it as a strapline? Thank you. Thanks so much. Janette.
So in the future, I think obviously the rights respecting guides and the framework will actually transform the educational system to that rights-based approach, and it will develop sort of the equity, well-being, participation, and empowerment, which I think will really drive educational leadership for the future.
Oh, wow, let's hope so. Thank you so much. That's a lovely thought. And finally, Rebecca, the last word goes to you.
Yeah, so I think in the future, you know, the framework will mean that all children matter, their voice matters, and all children's needs matters as well, and that informs local policy and practice, so that, you know, everybody is treated equally and fairly and with respect.
Absolutely. Thank you so very much indeed. Thanks, Rebecca. And to all of you, it's massively significant to give up a chunk of your time and to put yourself in front of a large audience. We really, really appreciate what you've shared with us this morning. I know there will be comments in the chat thanking you and valuing it. So thanks so much to all of our panelists, and thank you for all that you're doing to support rights respecting schools. I think I am no longer sharing a screen, which is great. We're going to wrap things up now in the final 10 minutes. There's quite a few things I'd like to sort of say and share as we bring things to a conclusion. We are going to invite you to do a further poll, a Menti, in a few moments. So have a think about that and maybe get yourself onto the Menti platform if you could, please. I think that's visible to you now. We have 3 questions that we want to ask. I've certainly found so much of what we've heard this morning incredibly inspiring and uplifting. What's inspired you in what you've heard? Just put, it might be a word, it might be a really short sentence, but if you could pop that into the Menti, please, that would be fabulous. and the number I think is visible to you and will be posted in the chat. So it's 1273 2625. And if you could put your thoughts in there, what's been inspiring for you in the conference this morning from our participants, our contributors, and we'll start to see some of that emerging, I hope, in a moment. I'm struggling to see that screen, actually. I just realised I need to unpin people. Oh, great, thank you. Oh, Sam, we're seeing a Google page at the minute. So here goes. I think this will show us a little bit. Oh, that's where people were from. The inspirational answers. Menti's perhaps not doing what we'd hoped it would do. Apologies for that. Maybe if we go to the next question in Menti, which is going to be, what will you take away from today? We're struggling. Colleagues are having trouble sharing Menti. Not to worry. I've got plenty of other final things that I want to say and other things to share with you. What we're also going to attempt to do as we draw things to a close is to celebrate the schools which, since our last conference 12 months ago, have achieved their gold accreditation or re-accreditation at gold. And our hope is to be able to share a little slide with you which will actually name all those schools that have achieved gold in the 12 months since our last conference. So if it doesn't apply to you directly, think of schools nearby. As this runs through, I'll stop talking and let you just have a look. It runs for less than 2 minutes. Thank you so much, and huge congratulations to all of those schools, to those that have achieved silver and bronze as well. But obviously gold is the sort of highest accolade, and it's a gold where you truly become a rights respecting school. I'd like for just a moment to share a few other statistics and bits of information. So in the year since the last conference, we've been joined by 712 new schools registering to become rights respecting. 646 have achieved their bronze, showing their commitment to the process. 400 have successfully progressed to silver, demonstrating that they are rights aware. And the list that you've just been looking at was a total of 234 schools recognised or re-accredited with that full rights respecting status at gold. All of this means that thousands of professionals as duty bearers know about children's rights and are committed to the realisation of the rights of every child. And equally importantly, more importantly perhaps, across all our schools, 1.7 million learners are hearing about the rights that are theirs under the Convention on the Rights of the Child, and they're able to access and to claim those rights. And we've heard so much about that this morning. There are other ways in which this past 12 months has been a really significant time for children's rights in the UK. The incorporation of the Convention has been hugely significant in Scotland. The Convention on the Rights of the Child is now part of Scots law, and Scotland has joined only a small number of other countries to achieve this milestone. Another huge boost for our work in children's rights has been the decision by the Mayor of London's team to fund RRSA for all state schools across the capital as part of the London Inclusion Charter. Also, since last year, the City of Cardiff has achieved full recognition as a UNICEF UK child-friendly city, which, alongside the vast majority of Cardiff schools engaged in RRSA, shows what can be achieved when the whole community comes together to commit to children's rights. I just want to refer back to Nelson's comments this morning about the school visiting the UNICEF UK offices. That prompted quite a great deal of excitement in the Q&A, but I have to clarify that unfortunately such visits are exceptionally rare, and we're really sorry. But there has to be a really compelling reason for such a visit to take place, and there has to be real value for the children and young people as well. It really is just an office space. So please await an invitation, but they won't be coming thick and fast, I'm afraid. It only ever happens really very, very rarely. I just want to move to some final thank yous now as the clock ticks on. Huge thanks particularly to all our panelists and contributors and speakers throughout this morning's conference, to Charlotte and Stephen and Nelson for sharing with you our theory of change, to Kulvan Atwal for an incredibly inspiring and challenging presentation, really making us think in terms of leadership and rights and what that means for us in education. To our leaders panel, to Rukhsana, Gary, Rebecca and Janette, thank you so much, because the Q&A clearly revealed how many people were engaged and really interested in the many examples you shared. It's hugely appreciated. I must also thank a number of people behind the scenes. Our communications and resources manager, Sam Brady, has pulled everything together for us all today, and Tim and other colleagues in the UNICEF UK IT team. Thank you all very, very much. And to the whole rights respecting team, our people who support us with admin, our professional advisors and the senior professional advisors. There are actually 15 colleagues working in RRSA, supporting 5,000 schools, so huge thanks to the whole team. But most importantly, I want to conclude with a thank you to all of you for joining us today, of course, but far, far more than that, for the work you do bringing to life the programme we offer. We give you the framework and some resources, we do your accreditations, but it's you and your colleagues who are bringing about change for children across thousands of schools. So please keep up the amazing work from everyone at UNICEF UK. Thank you for what you're doing for children everywhere. We hope that you'll join us again, maybe roughly this time next year, for another gathering and another opportunity to celebrate the impact of rights respecting schools. Have a great rest of the day. Thank you all very much. The recording of this morning's session will become available in a couple of weeks. And as always, continue to celebrate and promote children's rights. Thank you.